Good evening, Twitter. It's your boy Wayne with IV, and today, on my quest to restore this 1987 Jeep Comanche, I first need to get some regular engine maintenance done. I'll be changing the oil, throwing in a new air filter, and while I'm in the engine bay, may as well put some new spark plugs in it. But first, as I was driving around a few days ago, the tailpipe essentially broke in half, so I'm just going to cut this off for now to prevent it from becoming road debris. You can see here where it basically just died. One of the hangers fell out. I just shoved that back in there. There. I don't see anything wrong with that. Alright, now for the oil change. You can see here on the dipstick, it is pretty burnt looking. The guy said it was about 1,000 miles overdue. Doesn't really concern me though. These 4-liter engines are known to run without oil, so while that oil's draining, I'm gonna try to finagle this filter off. It was on there questionably tight. It is a different orientation than in the XJ. I don't know if that's an MJ thing or not, but still just as easy to do an oil change. Rub fresh oil on the O-ring and screw it back on there. I tightened it down by hand, wrote the miles on it, and I'm going to install a new drain plug. It was like $1, so why not? This gets torqued to 20 foot-pounds. Time to add the new oil. I'm probably going to run synthetic later, but for now I'm just using high mileage oil just to get a feel for the engine. Now I'll throw in this new air filter. Here's our air box. It's held on by 5 of these little clip things. You can get these off with your hands, but it's easier with a screwdriver. This one in the back here is the hardest. It's all these vacuum lines everywhere, but comes off just as easy. Here's our old air filter. We've got evidence of oil burnage in here. I don't know if that's normal or not, but whatever. Throw this in here. Wait a minute. I was looking for that. I don't know how that managed to get into the air box, but at least now I have it. Just gonna firmly seat the cover on here and then snap all those clips back on. Simple as that. Right now for the spark plugs. They make a special tool for pulling these off, but a finger works just fine. Remember not to tug on the wire itself. I have no idea when these were last changed. Looking at it though, it looks pretty good. Just a little bit burnt. But it never hurts to throw in a new set of spark plugs, I hope. Just gonna line this up and thread it in by hand at first, and then tighten it down with the ratchet. And these spark plugs get torqued to 27 foot-pounds. process is very similar for all of them. Here's number 2. They all looked pretty good. The only ones that needed different adapters were 5 and 6. I had to use a longer extension for number 5, and I had to use a swivel joint for number 6. Here's the old spark plugs. Something I find interesting is they're all champions except for the one out of cylinder 6, which was auto light, so that's interesting. They all have normal wear, and they're actually in pretty good shape. These did not need to be replaced, but it doesn't hurt to throw in new ones anyway. Just gonna check for any oil leaks real quick. And then go on a test drive. Not going to close the hood all the way because the latch doesn't work. Plan on fixing that in this video. I'm still not very good at driving stick shift. Anyway, after a short test drive, I'm verifying that oil pressure is holding good. And we're back to the grind. Now I'm going to replace the hood release. These usually break because the center pivot section seizes up. I'll explain that more later. First, at our fuse box here, just above it, there's this little rubber grommet. I just took a screwdriver and shoved that through the firewall into the engine bay. Once I got it about halfway shoved in, I was able to just pull the cord out through the engine bay because it was busted off. The handle was busted off, so that was the easiest way to get it out. I got to take these vice grips off it though. They were on there incredibly tight, and that's a free set of vice grips, so that's nice. For the top here, this little wire has to be bent out through the channel, and then the little cylinder shaped thing can slide backwards towards the hood to come out. You might have to bend the whole mechanism a little bit to get it out of there, but simple as that. And then the rubber part just slides out the back. I had to use pliers to pry it out the back because it had been seized in there forever, but it just slides out. Then we're going to pop it out of these little plastic retainers and pull it through the engine bay. Time to get this rubber grommet out of here. Oh, and it's lost forever, so forget about that. Alright, so here's why your hood release cable breaks. This thing needs to pivot on here smoothly, and as you can see, it requires a lot of force to move it back and forth. So I'm just going to hit it with some classic old WD-40 and see if that fixes the problem. And that's much easier. So this latch works, but it is a bit seized. Still a lot of work to unrelease it like that, so I'm going to spray this one full of WD-40 too. The other side is missing a latch, but the owner was kind enough to provide it with the vehicle's purchase. So I'm going to throw that one on. It is kind of broken, but I don't feel like going to buy a new one of these. It'll work good enough. So this metal rod slides into the little receptacle here, and then it kind of clamps into the hood. One side is clamped in and the other side is held in by this Torx bolt. I believe it was a T40. And just testing it out, it doesn't really work unless it wants to, and then it'll come released if you pull the hood up. So I mean, It's kind of broken, but it'll work good enough. I don't really care about it. So I'm going to spray some WD-40 in here and hope for the best. Anyway, our new hood release cable has to go in from the passenger compartment first. Just going to shove it in far enough to the point where I can grab it from the other side and pull it through. And here we are. Now that rubber grommet has to seat into that hole properly. Couldn't really get the camera up in there and show you that. This gets bolted to 3 holes. 2 of them are right up front, one's in the back. The previous owner was kind enough to provide the hardware with that, so that's nice. Just gonna snap it into these retainers here. And for the upper part, it's basically opposite of taking it out. So the cylinder slides in the top here, and the metal wire has to go around that little hook spot. And there, it's in there now. And then the rubber piece just slides into its receptacle. Now, I don't want that to fall out, so I'm going to crimp the back of it with some pliers, because if that falls out, you can't get your hood open, and that's going to suck. Now I'm just tightening down these screws that hold the lever in place, and everything is good to go. It's pretty easy to pull, which is nice, how it should be. Everything's been lubed up with some WD-40. Time for the ultimate test. Let's do it. Alright, and the one side didn't latch. That's great. So I found out, though, that A, it's way easier to open now, and B, it doesn't latch if you just drop the hood. You have to set it down and give it a good push, and then it'll latch. Now I'm taking out the entire interior, basically, because I got to get to that parking brake cable. That's our next project. So I removed the seat. There was 8 nuts holding it in. I'm going to vacuum up this nasty floor and take out the kick panels. Also have to remove the accelerator pedal. There are just 2 bolts mounting it to the wall, and I'm just going to let it hang here. Doesn't need to come out all the way, I just need to get the carpet out. So now comes the tricky part of trying to get this flooring out. It's been cut before, somebody's welded in, or I don't know, just riveted in new floorboards before, but it's not a very well done job. So I'm going to have to get new floor pans welded in. There is still some holes in the floor, and it looks pretty bad. After trying to fiddle around with it for a while, I just gave up and ripped it, because that would be the easiest way to get it out. Over the shifter was the hardest, but then it all came out in one piece mostly. Look at this blue. This is the original color it was. I can't imagine that it's so faded now. Anyway, here's our parking brake cable. So for the upper part of the parking brake, I have to release this from its little holder. It just pops out. Try using a screwdriver to pry it out. Under the vehicle, I'm just going to cut this. Actually, I couldn't cut it. I had to grind it off. But those nuts on the back were so seized on there, there's no way in hell I was ever going to get those off. So I just cut the cable itself, and I'm just going to pull this out. Now for this part, you can slide a 13mm wrench over this, and it bends in all those little prongs and enables it to be pulled out. So as you can see here, there we go, it's free. The upper side has the same sort of mechanism. I also use this 13mm wrench to get that out. Now I'm just going to pull it through the cab and take this little piece of rubber insulating with me.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
For the new one, we have to slide it in from underneath the truck. It's important to get the rubber insulator piece in properly. So I'm just going to pull it in through the truck and shove this rubber insulator in so that no water can get in here.
There we go.
Now I'm going to push this through its little slot, and those tabs will just click into place.
Lighting is
Now on the other side, this goes through a little belt loop thing. I don't imagine that's very important, but it's probably rusted off on every other Comanche. This other one had a bolt on it, so I just took the bolt off to get it out. I'm just going to snug that down real quick and then feed it through its receptacle up here by the foot pedal. Once again, it just snaps in like that. I had to shove it in more through the back side, but after you get it hooked in like that, you're good.
Looking at the Guinness World Record for fastest taking off of a tire.
Okay.
Off to a rough start. It's about 20 seconds. Okay.
All right, world record.
Yep. That's the world record, I guess.
So I was originally going to do the brakes in this video, continuing with the parking brake project, but as of recording, my brake parts are 9 days late after their expected delivery, so I'm going to have to wait on that one. That'll be in the next episode though, don't worry.
Yeah. Oh my god.
While I'm waiting for the brake parts, I figured why not take care of this differential cover. I'm going to paint it orange because you can't stop me. This old cover is leaking fluid through the gasket, but it looks pretty beat up to me, so I'm just going to replace the whole cover. These are all 1/2-inch bolts, and they were all on here pretty tight. I had to use the cheater bar to get them all out. And then let me tell you, this cover was on here tighter than I've ever seen a differential cover before. They must use glue as the gasket or something.
Oh wow, they're still.
So whenever we ate as a family, we'd get like the square ones. So they'd like cut it up, you know? Just eat it with like a fork.
Can you spin the brake drum? Like spin it? Yeah, the whole thing. Just grab it and spin it. There you go. Alright.
Oh, it's a spider. Fuck.
The fluid in there smells like VO.
So, after scraping off the old gasket, I'm going to clean off the gears with some brake clean, because I probably got a whole bunch of gasket maker in there. I'm just going to line up a new paper gasket with 2 of the bolts.
There now, we'll drop it in there.
And then all these bolts get tightened to about 30 foot-pounds. Now just fill it up with 75 W90 gear oil.
You ever see that ad that's like, servicing differentials can be a pain in the ass?
Yeah.
There's often not enough room to do anything.
Alright, now I'm going to replace the tailpipe. These bolts were so seized on here that there's no way they were ever going to come off in a million years. So here I'm just trying to break them off with a breaker bar. Even so, it was still pretty hard.
Okay. One down, one to go.
I'm gonna unhook the remaining piece of the tailpipe from its hangers here. And there's no way I'm gonna get it out of the end of the muffler. I sat there for probably an hour trying to pull it out and pry it with a screwdriver and everything, but I just settled on cutting it with the Sawzall.
Monstrosity.
So you can replace all three of these rubber hangers if you really want, but Rock Auto only had one in stock, surprisingly, so I'm only going to replace the rearmost one. These just hook into the tailpipe on its hanger points.
So after quite a bit of maneuvering, I got it attached in here, but it's kind of like off to the side. It's off to the right up here, and it's off to the left down there. But it does fit. It's slightly bent the wrong way somewhere, but I think that'll stay. So all we need now is to clamp it here. What a lot of Comanche guys do is just put a little downpipe right here and don't replace the whole tailpipe, which I thought about doing, but I want this thing to be as authentic as possible.
Alright, and the last easy fix for today is the gas cap. I noticed upon filling it up one day that the rubber ring around it was cracked and basically non-existent, so it's cheap and easy to just throw on a new fuel cap. I was originally going to include the rear brakes in this video, but as I said, the parts I ordered are thus far 9 days late, so I'm never going to use DHL shipping again. And the video is already 3 times longer than any of my subscribers' attention spans, so I'll cover that in the next episode.